I'm not going to focus on the art in the absence of light, but rather injury in the absence of sight, Tony.
Okay.
You see what I did there?
Okay.
Hit you with the ooh-wop, the bam, flipped it around on them, you know what I'm saying?
As long as you know.
Now, for those that don't know, what's going on, fam? This is KR Jones of the Off the Strength podcast, and I am here to tell you to like, listen, subscribe, and if you're feeling freaky, visit offthestrength.com. That's where you can go and get more information on us. That's where we can link, we can build, we can connect, and let's make this thing work.
I really need to understand that. Now, if you took away all visual context, you just seen a silhouette, you think you'd be able to tell somebody's ethnicity just off of how they moving, if they moving very specifically?
Depending on where you're at, what they got on, where you know, it could be very much identifiable.
What about a run specifically? Can you tell a person's ethnicity from their run?
Maybe sexual orientation. I don't know about ethnicity.
See, you going in a different direction.
You're racially ambiguous. Like that's a loose run you got there, player.
What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome back to yet another episode of Off the Strength. We'll give you the inside look into all things wellness culture. I'm a trainer called Tony, and of course with me I have a gentleman of extraordinary league.
KR Jones is in the building.
That's right, folks. We are back. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all type from near and far, you are now in store for a treat. It's the return of the variety show. That's when we give you our best foot forward. So hopefully you take your best foot forward. You do that two-step, that tango, whatever it is you need to do to make it on through the week. The best goddamn wellness information available.
Yeah.
Brother Jones.
What's the word?
How are you, my friend? What is going on in your world?
Man, I am all right, brother. I am keeping on.
Okay.
I think about the SAID principle a lot. You know, that specific adaptations to impose demands.
Okay.
That's been the day-to-day life of slowly getting back into a routine of what my current wellness state is and where I want to be, as well as, you know, really just moving around a lot more than I have been able to within the last month.
Okay. How's that been treating you over the last week?
Oh, man, it's exhausting. You know, I went out the other night and, you know, had a couple drinks just to get the monkey off my back. I ain't a regular, you know what I'm saying? And in that moment, you know, when the birthday happens, people like, yo, drinks on me. Let's get a shot. I had a aviation shot. That was new to me. I didn't even know what that was.
I was about to say, this is the first time I've even heard that.
Fam, it was like a cocktail, but it was a shot. But it was like, you know, aromatic and refreshing. But then when I woke up this morning, I was like, nah, I felt that aviation.
You ain't feel aromatic or refreshed.
I did not. You know what I'm saying? I had to get all that out my system. But yeah, man, it was great. I was grateful to be celebrated by folks that genuinely love me, you know, and even on the humble, like one of the homies see me in the building was like, yo, let's go get a drink, man. I ain't see you in a minute. I was like, bet, you know, I'm not going to turn you down. So it's that moment in itself has been, you know, emblematic of how the week has been, of really just accepting the love that's been out there.
I'm happy that you're getting that love, man.
For sure.
I think I've been getting all of the opposite end of the spectrum in my week. Just a bunch of hating ass motherfuckers out here, Kyle.
I know it. You know?
I am emotionally exhausted from having to deal with a bunch of hate throughout the course of the week, and I have fully emptied my clip, metaphorically speaking, of course.
Pause.
In trying to exhaust all the efforts that I need to do to move forward past some of this stuff, and I really am getting tired of these spineless individuals, Kyle.
Sick and tired.
Sick and tired of them, and that's going to bring me right into this Ask the Professionals this week. Now, we come from an era, or I'm specific to me. I know you just got a little bit older, but, you know, we still got a little bit of years between us.
You shut your mouth right now. I got 3 gray hairs that just popped up in the last 3 weeks.
I don't want to know where they at.
No, come on,
I don't know where you going with that.
You out here with your nut hairs turning gray. You got cancer.
You got to hang it up.
You need to
stop it.
You need to go see your doctor immediately.
Stop it right now. I'm getting away from you. Well, I come from a world where your word had to be your bond, or that was your ass, pretty much.
100%.
That is not today anything that seems to be at all relevant to the new population of people, and it damn sure ain't something that you can get off in a professional setting, Kyle. But you do have to start to figure out ways to navigate and move around this. So in this week's Ask the Professional, I really want to unpack some of these frustrations. I want to know, how should one handle situations where colleagues, clients frequently don't keep their commitments? How do you handle that? What are the best practices to address this issue? And how do you effectively promote yourself as a professional to still grow through some of this turbulence, my man?
Damn, that's a loaded question. So let's see how I can unpack this. First and foremost, I think about something that you said we talked about on the podcast a while ago, right? And that's the difference between being right and being effective, right? So do I want to be right about this situation? Because you can be right 1,000 times over, but if it's not effective, then that's a waste of time. That's number one. Number two is know the game that you're playing, right? If you're playing the corporate game, then you need to have that paper trail. You need to have everything in writing. You need to have emails so that there can be mile markers to directly reflect on everything that you're saying and how it's being perceived and understood and things of that nature. Now, if we're talking about the rules in which you grew up on, and sometimes you gotta boss up on a nigga to just let them know, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you gotta do it in front of somebody so that they know you can do it and they know that they couldn't do it the way that you did it because they seen you do it right in front of them.
Okay.
Whatever J. Cole said, you know, that's how he did on the album. But there is a point in time when you have to assert yourself. Now, that can look different for a lot of different people. That can be raising your voice. I'm not saying it got to be physical every time, but an assertion to let you know, hey, I'm not the one. The acronym is FAFO. You can fuck around and find out how it goes over here. I can get my $10 million email words out, you know, to per my last email and all of that. Like, I can go toe to toe with you, but sometimes you got to pop out and show niggas.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to, if you got $10 million email words, I'm gonna need you to start sending out all the off the strength emails from here on out.
Oh, I got you. I'm
there.
there
To make this work. You
know, listen, that's how you negotiate again to end all this rap and this rant is only what you're worth or what you get. I fucked that whole thing up. You know what I'm saying? When you negotiate, you're only gonna negotiate what you negotiate for. You're never gonna get what you're worth. You get what you negotiate.
There we go.
Damn,
it came all the way around.
Had to land that plane, boy. That shit. We ran out of gas.
And that's growth right there. Recognizing that,
right,
and being
there.
able to move it forward. All right, so I'm gonna just throw some punctuation inside there. You laid through some of these, but I really want to break them out into 3 steps. One, establishing that clear expectation, right?
Bingo.
Clear communication, clear deadlines, clear responsibilities from the onset of whatever your arrangements are going to be. Detail-oriented emails using some of those fancy multi-common words.
Per my last email. Tangentially.
There we go.
As a result.
And when something goes wrong, you have to address that issue promptly. Don't wait for it. Get right to it. If someone fails to meet their commitments, you have to address the issue as soon as possible because there is a window of opportunity for it to be effective in conversation and in understanding both the reasonings, how you can make something mend past that. And then finally, you got to document and follow up because documentation is going to beat conversation every single day, Kyle. And that's
documentation leads to liberation.
See, we getting back in there. He's getting stuck again. We're going to go downhill on the Asian words.
We cut that off express. There's no need to go any further with that.
So I have been trying to follow up on all of my documentation with all of these commitments throughout the week, and I'm still dealing with that frustration. But hopefully you out there in listener land have better outcomes based off of these tips, and that's going to be it from this week's Ask the Professionals. Now, Kyle, I got to get into some good.
Okay.
I got to get into some bad.
All right.
And I'm going to talk about a little bit of ugly this week. That's right. It's time for this week's episode of Ripped from the Headlines. And first things out. This is coming from Sports Cannabis Blog, Kyle. Now, did you see that this week USC and Cookies partnered up for collaboration where USC athletes are now going to be officially endorsed by Cookies for their CBD partnerships?
Now, for the layperson out there, Cookies being the weed brand.
Yes.
That was their start in California?
Berner, yes. Berner has started that brand out in Cali. It is not just a weed brand. He's expanded that into apparel and a whole lifestyle movement around the cannabis plant. Yeah. Right? So he's got all of that coming through. The fact that this is an front page endorsement from a college institution.
Collegiate athlete, a high-level collegiate athletics program at that.
D1 program where when I was in school, you would have been banned, kicked out, and put on some type of administrative leave.
For Red Bull.
Yeah.
Let alone CBD.
So now, you know, it's just showing that this historic movement is starting to merge these worlds of elite sports, elite wellness, And the cannabis companies are going to start to make some moves that you see some of your favorite alcohol beverage companies making. They have been around sports like football for the longest time. What's your thoughts about hearing this multi-year collaboration coming in where teams are going to be able to have plant-based wellness products directly delivered to them? So both in the recovery components, they got all kinds of balms and ointments, cookies coming through, and you're going to see it on the sidelines. How you feeling about that?
I'm happy to see the evolution and the integration of CBD and we're not really talking THC just yet, but the CBD products being on the front line for recovery, because that's something that has been in the back line for a little bit, especially for Canada athletes like ourselves. I also think about Monica and Quincy from Love and Basketball, fam. What if they was getting the CBD on in Love and Basketball? Like, that's crazy to me. Like, look at this.
Got some checks.
Full circle moment. You know what I mean?
A lot of checks off of that. Because, the NIL deals are starting to open up the market to a lot of different companies, bro.
For sure.
And there's a lot of money in cannabis. That's why I keep talking about it. So hopefully that we, who've had to be under the scrutiny of that lens for so long, can actually start to find ways to find paths to getting monetization inside there, Kyle. That's why I wanted to put it out. I lay it out for you to play it out, my friend. Speaking of laying stuff out. Now, Kyle, as a Bed-Stuy inhabitor, much like myself,
stop it right there. I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant. I told you that. I paid too much to cut off the rest of those letters. I don't live in Bed-Stuy anymore, Tony. I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant.
So have you seen that there's going to be some construction happening in your specific neighborhood?
I see it all the time, brother.
Now, Kyle, this construction is going to be very specific to the biking people in particular. There is now going to be a dedicated bike lane that we have talked about and been approached in several different conversations to be advocates for. Dedicated bike lane on Bedford Avenue, spanning from Atlantic all the way through till Fulton Street is going to be the first wave of it, and then they're going to extend it all the way down further as they go along. What's your thoughts about seeing this before and after of how Bedford Avenue is now going to change right before your eyes?
I feel like we are on the precipice of such a change, of something that's going to be noted in the history, you know, like how Times Square changed or whatever the case may be, right? People aren't looking at it that way, but it is. And when I think about Bedford Avenue specifically, I've seen with my own eyes rush hour and cars driving in the bike lane.
Yeah.
It's always locals. It's always so quick to the point where like police can't catch it. Like, it's very undetectable, but hopefully a protected bike lane will deter that type of behavior. But, you know, the Bedford-Stuyvesant residents that are native going to do what they're going to do regardless.
They're going to do what they're going to do, and I think that's also going to be ushering in some new residents over there. Because a lot of times when you bring that type of infrastructure change into a city, we're now starting to acknowledge the fact that alternative modes of transportation are going to be more popular across the city. In what used to be not an invested neighborhood is now getting this level of investment. You have to know what comes along with that. Now, if you have walked down Bedford Avenue and seen everything else that's changing on there, this sign of change is only ushering more of that change happening rapidly. So please pay attention to what's going on in your leasing agreements, your terms and conditions.
Thanks.
If you can get something and hold on to it, hold on tight, because the property value is only going up from there. Now, quick other tangent inside of bike news for this week. Kyle, did you see that we got a dedicated speed express lane right over here, not too far from the Block of the Rock, now on First Avenue. So the First Avenue is going to have an express lane from 41st to 49th Street. Now, before, you used to have the bike lane all the way to the far left and you couldn't go through the tunnel with the bikes. I did not know that this tunnel that they have on First Avenue now has a dedicated bike lane for express movements on the bike specifically. I feel like I frequent that space maybe higher than most people, but any of the delivery route people is going to know that that is an expressway on its own. So having not even just a dedicated lane, but a dedicated express bike lane in New York City, I saw that this week. I was like, wait, hold up. This is something different. This is whole new signs of the times coming. What's your thoughts on that one?
It sounds good on paper. I do caution, especially those delivery drivers that are out there with like food and the scooters that are not necessarily bikes, but, you know, electric. It's tough when you're speeding up. Like, be cautious, man. It's not worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, you got to move at your own pace, and you got to make sure that you're paying attention to everybody that's around you. So even if you do have to move a little bit fast, move alert, you know, make sure that you're tapped in. I do appreciate that, my brother. Now, next up in the news, Did you see that Spotify is starting to get into health and wellness?
Nope.
The founder of Spotify is now started Nico Health. And Nico Health has these full body scans that analyze millions of different data points in your body and give you results instantly on things like metabolic status, your immune system, your skin analysis. You got body measurements, like your body composition and so much more. So they got millions of pieces of information that you can get from these body scans that are brought to you by the people who have been literally in your head this whole time. How do you feel about seeing these new tech companies starting to come about from some people that have already had a lot of information from you?
I want to say no. I wish I had more thumbs. Give it 4 thumbs down, Tony. We talked about this with the Whole Foods dude creating his own gym. I'm seeing the pattern once again of people that cause problems trying to go back and actively solve problems so that I can sell you on both sides of this equation. It sounds good on paper. The reality of it is you already got too much of my data as is on Spotify. Y'all already conniving enough, and now you're trying to get into some healthcare?
Well, it's something that to me makes a lot of sense that somebody who's had that much information is now starting to look for different ways to monetize that, right? I think you're going to start to see more and more companies start to leverage themselves into adjacent fields, and that's why you do see the Whole Foods going into that. That's why you're seeing the Spotify's into that. You probably will see an Apple full stamped in fitness.
Apple Healthcare.
They've already had that out.
Take
but
a bite out of health.
The next couple steps there I'm really paying attention to because I think that they're positioned to really be disruptive in the market depending on what everything else is going on. So they sat back and they looked at Peloton, they looked at the mirrors, they looked at everybody else try to dance in their space on the technology side, but bringing in fitness. I wouldn't be surprised to leave this year before Apple making a new announcement in something fit tech adjacent. Now, last thing on the fit tech front, Colin, and I got a couple quick hits for you. We talked about this a while ago, and it was something that we covered on the show, but did you see that the NFL, as it just started kicking off this week, has started to let people use these Gatorade patches that measure your hydration levels while you're on the field? So before, this was not something that was integrated into the actual sports, but people can use the GX sweat patch to now start to measure what's going on in the metabolic conditions for these athletes out there. So if your athletes are underperforming and you see they're dehydrating, you could start to replenish their electrolytes and all the essential minerals and nutrients that they need to get right back on the field. So we're getting a higher level of information on real-time athletic performance. What's your thoughts on that one?
That sounds great on paper, but contextually, I want people to unpack Gatorade, the company that sold you...
Is it in you?
Fruit punch, you know what I'm saying? Orange and yellow. And now you got the purple, you got the Gator Light, you got all these other products that they are diversifying their portfolio with. And now you're telling me they're getting into the tech industry to really distill and localize on cramps and athletic performance. That sounds nuts to me. Right? Like, to take a Gatorade patch for where I have a cramp. Like, back in the day, you get a Charlie horse in game, get some water, banana,
none of that.
Some nuts, somebody rub you out down, on the sideline.
What kind of sports was you playing?
You back in the game. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Like, but a Gatorade patch with a chip in it?
Yeah.
No, fam.
If I told any of my high school football coaches that I had a cramp, they would have called me a 4-letter word and then told me to run it off. It's some word.
I'm thinking of a 5-letter word that starts with a P and ends in a Y.
That's what I would have got hit with, man. So I'm happy to see that you can get a little bit more tapped in with this on the field, because hopefully you'll be able to keep the athletes healthier longer, and that should help them be able to provide for their families even longer. So I can't knock that front. Now, yeah, the integration with it, how's it going to play out? It's one more piece of information to pay attention to. So hopefully the players are not interrupted with this information, and it just stays to the people on the sideline. Now, getting into the idea of preventative fitness is kind of what that whole aspect is coming from. I'm pulling an article from Eat This, Not That, and they are talking about now, if you are not practicing preventative fitness, you need to start to immediately, and here's why. Now, when I say the words preventative fitness to you, Kyle, what comes to mind?
Preventative fitness sounds a lot like I am trying to actively stop the worst possible things that could happen to me.
It's in that prehab kind of, thought process. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon into what it is, but it really is the dynamic warm-up stuff that we've been doing for the longest time. It is the full body karate that the practitioners of the Off the Strength podcast, the organic thug himself, the provider of the vibe and the frequency elevated movement classes, and in the bike yoga himself. We have been doing this preventative fitness for quite some time. It is the integration of prioritizing stretching, strength training, flexibility, balance, and cardio all at the same time. That's what full body karate was, people. We got to make sure that you are ready in a complete 360-degree area to be the best possible athlete that you want. But now it's coming over to the public side, man. We got to try to get some people who are the weekend warriors out here just jump in and start doing whatever it is that they want to do with no type of warm-up, no type of cool-down plan at all. How do we get more of this preventative fitness to be accessible to the people that we want to push it out to, Kyle?
You got to care. You got to do the work. You have to seek those that are doing the work and really fully dive into what your preventative fitness needs to look like, because it's going to be a different starting point for everybody. It's going to be a different maintaining point for everybody.
Yeah, and I also would think some part of you just going out and doing what you like all the time is going to limit your runway of being able to move the way that you like to move for the long haul. So that's why my good brother over here crafted something like a bike yoga, to be able to take your thing that you love and also be able to love your body as you start to move with it. You got to be able to take care of yourself, Balance, Kyle. Balance is what we're really trying to strive for. And this last thing that I want to tap in with, checking in on some sound baths. Now, this sound bath in Watts. How do you feel about that title?
As in California?
Yes, sir.
Compton?
Watts.
I know, but it ain't too far right there. Watts is where J-Rock from,
Yeah.
Rock got it. Rock came from rock bottom.
So when you hear that, what comes to mind?
I just think of gang tats, Dickies, Compton Airs, white tees.
We here for the wellness, Kyle. So this is brought to you in part by a collective called Culture. Now, Culture is Brent Fires and Joe K of Soul Selection Group. They have launched a wellness club called Mirrors Wellness Club. And in that creative partnership, Sound Bath in Watts is one of their first offerings that they're putting out. Now, they have made a collection of soulful sounds to be able to help enhance any of your recovery activities that they started to roll out during some of their wellness activations. One is called Safe House. This wellness project is specifically something that uses sound therapy to immerse restorative energy for women specifically. Now, this sounds like a lot of fancy words to say. Brent Fires is getting into this wellness lane, and he's got a lot of people relaxing with his sounds, and he's getting them into a very particular type of mood.
I don't know if it sounds illicit relaxation.
It might be. It's the after his sounds is the relaxation. Is what comes in.
I was about to say it's more of a reaction that comes when his music is played.
Yeah, just a little. This is more for ambience, for sleeping, studying, and other social activities like having a nice healthy dinner or something like that. So, how do you feel about somebody like a Brent Fires getting into that?
I can't say I'm familiar with Brent Fires' health and him being, an ambassador for something as positive as this sounds, but I'm happy that he's a part of it. When you think of a collaboration with him and Joe K, famously known from Soul Election, like they have their pulse on a very specific crowd, and if they are trying to lead that crowd into something like a sound bath that is very, healing and restorative to folks that need that type of thing, I'm here for it. I can't shoot that down.
That's what they brought it together for. So Mirrors Wellness Club Studio is about telling Black and brown stories via wellness music. So that is explicitly what they're trying to get to. And hopefully we can find some activations nearby, because the ones that's going down in Watts, it's looking like the type of party that I need to be at, Kyle. That's going to be it from my side of Rip from the Headline, sir.
I ain't going to Watts, but I hear you.
It don't look like it was in Watts. That seemed like a very catchy title.
They say it, but it ain't really there.
It was Watts adjacent.
I stopped at Leimert Park. That's where I'm at with it. Leimert Park was cool, for my West Coast connections and affiliations.
There we go, man. What you got on your side?
If we're talking about good, bad, and ugly this week, I got a few things that came to the timeline, man. And first thing that I want to talk about that was good was I want to talk about Shannon Sharp and Marlon Wayans. Now, famously, Shannon Sharpe is going to be in the news for his sexcapades and all of that. We're not going to dive into that. We're going to let him and his marketing scheme, his Viagra, die like it should within this week. But what did get skipped over was the interview that he did with Marlon Wayans. And I thought that it was noteworthy because we really, as a culture, know the work that the Wayans family has done, but we have never really given them their flowers, from the Living Color to the movies to the acting to the writing. Like, as a family, I don't think we've ever seen a dynasty like that put up a win, you know, and it be not just one person, but you can name 5-6 people that really have grown and matured in an industry that wasn't built for us. Yeah. And to see somebody like Marlon, who famously is silly, you know, and never really taken serious, really spell out like, fam, we wouldn't have a Super Bowl if it wasn't for Living Color.
You wouldn't have a halftime show.
We wouldn't have a Super Bowl halftime show if it wasn't for Living Color. Like, all this Drake and Kendrick debate and how Lil Wayne got snubbed. Fuck, we wouldn't have that had it not been for the Wayans family in Living Color and their halftime show. Yeah. Right? Like, that's first and foremost. And when he gets to, Marlon that I'm speaking of, gets to talking about, you know, roles that he auditioned for and had, but he had to, you know, turn down because he had to write Don't Be a Menace to South Central, right? Like, and even going through that process of rewriting that movie 26 times. Mm-hmm. When's the last time you revised anything you've done 26 times?
You know how many decks I got?
I'm just saying, like, that's something that people need to realize that is what comes with greatness. So that was what I saw and I picked up on that I feel like nobody really spoke on.
Yeah, that's the Shannon headline, the B story that came out this week. I definitely got a chance to check out that interview, and I had to walk away taking back some of my hate for Marlon Wayans after that, because very specific hate, though. I don't just throw it out there for no reason, but in some part of that story,
let it off your chest, Tony,
when he was talking about living in the projects that he grew up in, and how all of them lived in the same house, he came back to that neighborhood when it was not the projects. You know how I know? Because he would work out at the Equinox down there. And when Marlon was in there, I came, oh man, you know, not on some fan shit, but it's like, yo, I am a Wayans Brothers fan. Yeah. I've seen too many of these different episodes that this brother has made and brought some laughter and joy into my situation. When I tell you, he was on the opposite end of the spectrum, especially at that point in time. Yep. Wasn't no funnies. He was in there trying to, like, you know,
get swole on.
Getting swole, but also like, yo, fam, you really not that big at the same time. You can't walk in with the big chest and shoulders, act like you're moving shit hard and be like, all right,
hey, man, might look light, but it's heavy though.
That's what he was doing. So in that whole mix of that, I just kind of got, gym etiquette was not necessarily the best situation for me specifically. But I say that all to say, I have to respect the hustle for the hustle. I've seen the work that this man has put in to evolve his craft through the years, and I loved every part of that interview, man. He was definitely shown that he's become the keeper of that whole Wayans flame the way that he should be. He might have started off as a little bro, but little bro is coming up. I can't wait to see where he takes it next.
Facts. Now, staying in that same vein, I'm staying in the good because it was extra good this week. I ain't getting into all the bad with y'all folk. Okay. When I look at greatness and the process that it takes to get there, I also stumbled across a video of Jaylin Brunson. Okay. Now, when I speak on Jaylin Brunson, what comes to mind for you?
Talking about the New York Knicks right now. We're trying to really get this Knicks situation to be the saving grace of what New York City is. We need a winning Knicks season to save New York City. That's really what I feel right now.
And we had one last year, arguably, with them going to a 7-game series in the playoffs to lose. It wasn't like a blowout. Like, they showed up and fought. This video in particular shows a young Jaylin Brunson working out with his dad. And they're putting in these reps, and Jaylin asks, how many more I gotta go? And his dad said, go until I say stop, right? Like, someone really that pushed him to get to that next level, who is still doing that present day. I can't imagine being in the NBA and being coached by my father. Yeah. Right? Like, that's not enough emphasis is also put on that too, where it's like, fam, not only is he killing it on the court, like, his main support is also his main support. You get what I mean? Like, that was just something that came across my timeline. I know it ain't quite basketball season yet, but we getting there. And I had to highlight the greatness.
Hey, man, we shouting out the fathers out here, man. I can't be mad at that. And damn sure know that that is a good story of that happening. And there, for every one Jaylin Brunson you get, it's probably like 4,000 or 5,000 kids.
Lamar balls and whatnot.
That would never pick up a game of basketball again because their dad pushed them too hard. So you got to keep the balance.
The Jake Shuttlesworth and whatnot.
I don't want to play no more. I'm taking my ball, go home.
You kick my ball? Like, yeah, we ain't even going to get into that. Now, speaking of other greatness while we on this topic, are you in the know that SZA was on Sesame Street, Tone?
No, I did not. I would, at 38, have no reason to watch Sesame Street right now, but I do appreciate SZA pulling up there.
I bring this to, the table solely because, we've all seen the work that SZA has done to develop her assets.
Yep.
If you will, in life.
Quite literally.
Now, when I look at her on Sesame Street, it's quite wholesome. She covered up, you know what I'm saying? She got the letters, spelling her name out. It's a good vibe. You get what I mean? Like,
can't be mad.
I'm here for helping the youth. You know what I'm saying? In a positive manner. Yeah. Like, I feel like she gets a bad rap from time to time, especially in her musical choices. But to see her on the up and up, it's something that I'm gonna celebrate.
They talk about SZA and Brent in the same kind of category as the toxic R&B bags.
It's kind of hard to debate that.
I do. This looks like now my age is going to show because Erykah Badu also had a Sesame Street episode way back in the day,
for sure,
where they was trying to unpack. I was like, "What's on your head? What's that about? Can we be her friend? She looks different, She had the head wrap. This is old school Badu. This looks like that same kind of play, but just modernized. So shout out to her. Salute. She getting them young fans in early.
Now, speaking of Badu and SZA, I want to tap into something, and I'm gonna wrap this up with. And Tone, I want to ask you about your favorite black unit of measurement.
I'm sorry, what?
Your favorite black unit of measurement.
Okay.
Now, as a preface, let me start it like this, right? Like when you think about, just our usual colloquialisms, if you will, of like, oh, fam, it's been a minute since I seen him.
Okay.
That minute could very much be years. Like, it's not an actual minute. It could be a decade. It could have been childhood. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Fast forward, but there's been a lot of death that's been circulating around, unfortunately, from, rest in peace to Fat Man Scoop and Frankie Beverly. And, you know what I'm saying? James Earl Jones. The list is just growing drastically. But, when somebody passed, it's always, man, I just seen him a week ago. You know what I'm saying? It's like, fam, that week ago was a couple months. Yeah. 6 months. Might have been a year, So, again, I ask you your favorite black unit of measurement, Tone.
Favorite black unit of measurement? I don't know. The first thing that came up to mind when you said that was really, I don't know why. I don't know how your kitchen life was growing up. But I always would get hey, give me a spoonful of this, X, Y, Z, and that spoonful could have been, it wasn't like a teaspoon, tablespoon, anything. It was just spoonful. So give me a spoonful of whatever you had.
It was, Pass me that shit over there, baby. Yeah. Look at it. That shit? No. I mean, I like to think about the days when I was like making Kool-Aid, you know what I mean? Not that there was a unit of measurement. It was just, we just gonna turn this bag up for about 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds and then turn it back. Like there was never a serving size for how my Kool-Aid needed to taste. It was just, it ain't sweet enough.
Nah, I can't do that.
You know what I'm saying? Not anymore. I'm talking back in the day when I was young.
You was backsliding.
I ain't a kid anymore, you know? But like, the usual is like, yo, I'm around the corner. Around the corner.
You're not around the corner.
Is another barrel in New York. Yo, I'm around the corner.
You just left.
You in Queens, fam. We supposed to be meeting in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Yo, I'm a block away. Insert 5 to 10 blocks. Yeah. On a good day. You know what I mean?
5 minutes late.
Yeah, I just wanted to insert that into the conversation. Now, there wasn't too many other things I want to dive into this week, so I'm keeping it light. Okay. But heavy though. And we're going to slide into our Raising the Bar segment this
week. Let's raise it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all type from near and far, you're now in store to raise your bar. Now, Brother Tone.
Yes, sir.
Previously, we talked about the documentary that was on HBO, I believe, and it was Art in the Absence of Light.
Yes, that's one of my favorite shows. I tried to show that to my grandmother. She has some colorful words, much like those words that I wanted to use at the top of the show that she didn't want to say.
Art for, historians, if you will. It's a touchy subject, if you will.
Yeah.
It brings up a lot of emotions, to say the least. But I'm not going to focus on the art in the absence of light, but rather injury in the absence of sight. Tony.
Okay.
You see what I did there?
Okay.
I hit you with the ooh-wop, the bam, flipped it around on him, you know what I'm saying?
As long as you know.
Now, for those that don't know, I'm back walking with my cane. The first time was my Achilles. This time around it was an incident that was out of my control, but we are here. Now, deep in the midst of my healing journey a month ago, I was, in the midst of a situation where now I'm well enough to walk with a cane, and I do so for visibility. I don't necessarily need it, but I feel like I should have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, deep in the midst of my healing, I realized that a cane is a universal reference for somebody that has a mobility issue, right? It's a visual representation, and it switches how people perceive you, right? Like, it changes how people talk to you. It even promotes conversations and words of encouragement if it's on the menu for certain people. It's not always there, but you'd be surprised when people mentally think you're not old enough to have a cane, or they can physically see you have a cast or a brace or whatever it is, and they might just drop a gem on you. Oh, you'll be all right, baby. You're going to heal, whatever the case may be, right? Now, I need my cane to be seen so that others can see my pain and govern themselves accordingly. It's New York. People do anything. They come out, they jump on you, they be all rambunctious. You'd be surprised. It's like sometimes you got to give them that forearm. It was an interview with Jamie Foxx, the one where he was like, I'm leaving here with something with Denzel.
Yeah.
He was like, the first time I seen you, you gave me one of those to the neck. He was like, oh, yeah, I do those. You know what I'm saying? Because you're too close sometimes. Sometimes you got to, give people the separation that they need. 4 fiends away. I digress. Now, let's talk about the converse, right? Let's talk about the pain that's unseen and weighs just as much as the physical injury, a mental blocker, emotional fork in the road, if you will, right? Many podcasts ago, we talked about the dangers of stress and how sneakily taxing it can be on the body, especially when it's undetected and it's not a physical scar like anything that you can see as bodily harm, right? When I think about the ramifications of 2020, there are copious amounts of broken people, Tone.
Yeah.
I'm talking heartbroken, grief-stricken, imposter syndrome, low self-esteem, and loneliness. The list goes on. None of which of those ailments can be seen, like somebody with a cane or an eye patch or whatever the case may be, right? But that pain still needs to be worked through, and it needs to be resolved for the betterment of your vitality. Now, Brother Tone, my question to you, as someone who has overcome pain seen and unseen, what's the best advice you could give someone stuck navigating the pain process off the strength?
That is a tricky one. The first thing that helped me specifically is acceptance. You have to come to the point where whatever has caused you a departure from your normal life and pain, it could be any of the things that you listed out, from the psychological to the emotional to the actual physical. It's an interruption in what you know as normal. Your brain is going to fight like hell to make normal still happen. The hardest thing for me initially was to recognize the fact that there's got to be a new normal now. Normal is gone. Normal might not ever come back. And now you have to start to identify how you start to become solidified enough to make it through whatever that next transition needs to be. So on a physical side, you have something that is an injury that limits you from your normal walking, your normal daily habits, your activities of daily living could be completely interrupted.
How you shower, how you brush your teeth, how you cook, how you wipe your ass.
You don't realize that until you go to do that thing that you take for granted. It's usually the most minimal task that you realize how limited you are in those minimal tasks, that when you start to run into that, oh damn, I have to accept
especially
this.
If it's your dominant side, right hand, right foot, something of that nature.
Been through all of it, right? So that plays itself out as well on any kind of, I would say, emotional kind of toll in the same space, losing somebody, all of those things. Like, you had a person in your life that is no longer there in whatever manifestation. You have to adjust to what that void is now, right? And in some aspect of acceptance, the pain comes, but you also have to be ready to start to deal with, okay, now as I process this, I'm not going to run from this pain. I'm going to move through this pain. It's very much like the physical kind of aspect. So when you first break a limb or when you first hurt something physically in your body, you have to regain that confidence. And much like that, it's not going to happen day one. You're not just going to break your leg and go out and take the first step and it be the strongest step that you've had before. You have to build that back up. Emotionally, you have to build back up in whatever.
Mentally, you got to build back up.
Whatever the capacity that you've had or you wish to achieve, you have to start putting those reps in incrementally. And you got to honestly find forgiveness in that. Forgiveness for not only the parties that may have caused the ill in whatever way, but also forgiveness for yourself. And that, to me, was more getting patient with the process of healing. It took a while to get everything to wherever you thought it was before it fell off. It's going to take a while to get it back up and be in the direction where you feel whole again. Yeah. So succumbing to that process and using all the tools that we talk about here all the time, you got to realize that even on that journey, some of those pieces that you have to do for yourself don't have to be alone.
Man, I just want to punctuate this a little bit for the listeners. So first step was acceptance, right? Accepting your current situation is no longer what it used to be, but now you have to plan for what it is. From there, you have forgiveness, right? Forgiveness being forgiving the situation itself, forgiving yourself, forgiving any and everybody that you need to in order to progress.
That's a big one. Because
of course,
it's ultimately something that you do for yourself.
Yeah.
No matter who did the harm. It's taken me years to get used to that. Because it's like, you wronged me one time, I'm ready to what? Whenever I see it's up, it's stuck, whatever, it's going to be like that all the time. You got to realize that you are only damaging yourself, keeping that level of like just hostility towards anything that would be destructive in your space. So the forgiveness part is not saying that any of that shit was okay.
Yeah.
But it's more like I'm giving myself permission to move forward past this.
Learning how not to be a victim without becoming a bully.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. Last part being the patience within the process of this journey, right? It's not going to be an overnight situation. Sometimes the get back is even further than the harm or the injury that took place in the first place. You know, like it can be 10 seconds. It could be 2 seconds of an injury to take place, and it's going to take you 2 years to get back what you lost, right? So being mentally prepared to be sturdy enough to understand that this is going to be taxing. It's going to be mentally, physically, emotionally taxing. Now, just getting into my story briefly before we move on. So let's take the flashback to the first time I tore my ACL. First time I tore my ACL, I was 16 years old. I was in high school. I was playing football. I was a starting tight end, starting defensive end, but I was also the kicker and the punter.
That's one job too many.
Too many jobs. I got hurt punting the football. I punted the ball. It was an amazing punt, but the kid tackled me like as soon as I punted the ball, bent my leg back, snapped on sight. So fast forward to me having to get ACL reconstruction surgery. The doctors were like, you're young, you're healthy. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little piece of your patella tendon and we're going to use that as the graft to recreate this ACL ligament for you, right? So for the non-science folks, your patella is your kneecap. The tendon is on both sides, top and the bottom. That kind of keeps your kneecap in place, allows it to not be sliding around. If your kneecap's sliding around, you got some issues need to address the instability. Nonetheless, fast forward to years later at 33, right, where I get involved in another incident, and now I have scarring on my knee in that same place where my patella tendon is, right? And it's like, damn, when I was 16, this is probably the space where they cut a little piece of my patella tendon off because I can feel how sensitive the nerves are, right? And the hardest part that I had to overcome was fully extending my leg forward, because it physically did not want to do it. Mentally, it hurt like hell to extend this leg forward. And the reality of the situation was there was nothing else holding me back but me, right? The doctor was like, yo, fam, you ain't got no broken bones. You need to be walking. You need to be standing up. He basically called me a bitch. I wanted to throw hands with him. But you know what I'm saying? I let him in his ignorance slide.
Shout out to the New York healthcare system.
Shout out to the New York healthcare system specifically, because I was about to throw hands and a cane with him, but I kept it cool.
You can't be fighting while you're getting evaluated.
Shit.
Yeah, but it's not going to help.
Nonetheless, the mental reps that I had to do to dissolve the pain on my own, to understand that if I don't stand up and put weight on this uncomfortable situation, I cannot move forward. I cannot heal properly without going directly into this pain, right? We often talked about the pain and pleasure theory, that dichotomy, right? In order to find pleasure, you have to go through the pain sometimes, right? I hate to get real graphic, but I ain't even going to take it there. You know what I'm saying? You
sound real Shannon Sharp right now.
Yeah, man, we ain't going to do that. You know, that's my Michelle right there. But we're not going to talk about her. What we will talk about, brother, is, again, realizing that injuries come in all shapes, sizes, and forms, right? It doesn't always have to be something physical. Pain is something that is going to be around much like air is, right? Like, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You're going to get hurt physically, mentally, emotionally, somewhere. You're only going to be as good as the tools you instill in your body, you instill in your mind to help you navigate such situations.
Speaking of tools, as you were talking, it reminded me of a book that I have, and I just wanted to make sure I pull that up. So there's a book that, as I was navigating much of what you're talking about, that I had to take a look at, and there is very much a physiological response to some of the mental pain that you have. This book is called The Body Keeps Score.
Okay.
It talks about how brain, mind, and body in the healing of trauma have to go through this intricate type of dance. And this book is by Basil von der Kolk, medical doctor, okay?
You ain't had to tell me The Body Keeps Score.
The Body Keeps Score. Right inside there. Make sure you check that out to unpack further, if you will, understanding how do you work through this whole traumatic process. Brother Jones, I didn't want to derail. I just wanted to make sure I gave a tool right there when you needed it. You know what I mean?
Read a book.
They put it inside a book to hide it from you, damn it.
Every time.
Make sure you find it, bro.
Man, so sliding out of that, brother, we can only relax into a relaxation responsibly segment. Brother Tone, talk to the people. Who is this relaxation responsibly segment brought to you in part by?
Well, I would hope that it is brought to you in part by my good brother K.R. Jones and all of his goings on at Frequency Movement. Now, Kyle, can you lay that out for people? Because that's what I think that this is the only way that you should be relaxing right now.
Saturdays at 11 a.m. This is a new start time. I, K.R. Jones, will be teaching my elevated yoga class at Frequency Movement. That's right. When you come in, you get a little personal joint that I hand roll. I give it to you. We smoke, and then we flow for an hour. This is mindful marijuana use.
Okay.
That's mixed with the movement. So you got mindful marijuana movement.
Okay.
That's 3 M's.
Triple M.
Back to back.
I like it.
Don't even ask me how. Maybach music. All the above.
That's what you're doing.
That's what we doing.
All right. How were you relaxing this week, Mr. Mindful Marijuana Music?
I wasn't relaxing at all. And you know what I was? I'm actually going to shout out you, brother. I've been relaxing this week because you set me up for success.
How so?
One being the birthday gift when you dropped off Grandpa's stash.
You need a good stash.
Sometimes you need a good stash, right? Now, if you don't know what Grandpa's stash is, you probably shouldn't. Don't even worry about it. But between Grandpa's stash and, there was some pain patches that you blessed me with that I forgot about.
Hey, right on, man.
I was like, man, between the stash and the pain patch, I was set up to relax responsibly, with a little CBD, if you will.
Yeah.
Just to get back to where I needed to be.
I was ahead of the wave, Kyle.
That you were,
So always got to point that out.
You got it, man.
Way too early on in the game.
It be that way sometimes. Look, the pain patch got the eucalyptus in there. You know what I'm saying? They got all the smell goods to get you right.
Hell yeah,
I had
man.
a little swelling on the ankle. I had to, mitigate, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
I'm happy that I was able to bring some type of relaxation vibes in there, man. It makes me feel good to make my people feel good, bro. And that's honestly also how I was relaxing this week. Now, this week, I got to tag up with my homie Al's son. His name is Noah.
Okay.
Noah is an avid cyclist.
Okay.
He's only about 20. He's hyper into the cycling world. Has never done a group ride. So when I took him out to Thursday night social, he told me that he had the best night of his entire life.
Yep.
Riding around with this social cycling group. So
breaking laws tend to do that to you.
He was like, we can do whatever we want. I was like, you can't. The game is still very much
stay in the group.
In this group,
you either in the front or the back.
Yeah, and
reality in the middle.
Reality, the consequences of reality are still very much alive and well. You know, you have to stay present.
You can die. Let's not do it today. Yeah.
But to see the young homies' appreciation for that was something that definitely took me to a different level, man. I ain't even want to go out to be truthful about it, But he was, yo, we going, we riding. I was like, I can't let the youth down, Kyle.
But did you get the Yu-Gi-Oh card at the end?
You know that was the thing that he had to go out of his way to find out. He's like, wait. They looking for you. Why are they looking for you? You got to get the spoke card. There's a lot of politics around spoke cards. It's like if you're not in with the right crowd, you might not get one when you pull up.
You know who?
Nah.
No, thank you.
So when he got one at the express lane, and he got it handed to him, he was like, oh, I'm down with the crew now? It's like,
yeah.
You down by law now. So shout out to the homie Noah. Shout out to Al, all the family. And the Cologne family is somebody that I'm very much connected with all the way through, bro. I got to see my boy Jay's mother and father as I was pulling up to take out his nephew to go on this ride, man. So I tell you, like, a good 4 generations of Brooklynites that I've been around my whole life, seeing it all come together and seeing them proliferate is something that made me super happy, man. And I was very relaxed while doing it.
It's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, brother. So after we get out of this relaxation, I can only imagine that you're hopeful, Kyle.
I am hopeful, Tony, and I'm hopeful for this new partnership that we have going.
Okay.
This partnership is with Lightlock. Good folks of the Off the Strength podcast, I am KR Jones, and I'm here to tell you about the newest bike lock that's called Lightlock. It's the next generation anti-angle grinder U-lock. Now, it's made from tough stuff, patented technologies combined with the highest quality components. I'm not going to get too deep into science, but you can find all of that on their website. But what I will tell you is that I seen with my own 4 eyes a Lightlock withstand a angle grinder that it just ate through. Now, the other locks lasted about 10 seconds. Now, with Lightlock, they also have other products such as not only bike locks, but motorcycle locks, storage bags, tactical mounts, and even t-shirts and merch. Be sure to use our code OFFTHESTRENGTH to get your Lightlock purchase. You can find the link in the description of the podcast. And hey, I'm KR Jones. I endorse this message. You ain't getting no money off, but you can use our code to represent us.
Hey, support the pod out there. Make sure you use the right code. If you are out there in the cycling streets and you know that we out here representing us and we want to be supportive of the cycling community.
And if you're hopeful to not get your bike stolen,
help us help you.
There's only one lock that you need to go.
Get that Lightlock.
Now, tell them how you're hopeful, brother.
Well, I'm also hopeful that what would pair well with the Lightlock is going to be the On-the-Move bag by Off the Strength.
You don't say.
Did you know that the On-the-Move bag by Off the Strength is the only ergonomic bag that you could take with you on your bike ride and get a full body workout with it? That's right. It comes with a suspension trainer, and it can conveniently store a U-lock if you need it. You know, you can put your Lightlock right inside the On-the-Move bag by Off the Strength and still have all your workout equipment with you and still arrive to your destination in style. Now with the comfort of knowing that your bike ain't going nowhere because you got your Lightlock inside there, right?
You can go do your filth.
All the things you need.
Go get your Shannon Sharp on with your bike protected.
Everything is strapped. Hopefully he was strapped, but the bike will stay strapped. That's the On-the-Move bag by Off the Strength. Now, Kyle, I am hopeful going forward to keep being the same person that I am and being that person that's able to add to my friends' lives some type of relief like you were talking about. All across my board, Kyle, I feel like I keep giving out my energy to people who are not appreciative of it. So when I do hear people that are appreciative of it, I just want to really lock in on that. So I'm hopeful to keep doing that. And I ain't trying to work with nobody else that ain't really liking me the way that I like my people, Kyle. That's what I'm hopeful for.
Amen to that, brother.
Hell yeah, man.
I am hopeful for more brand partnerships, such as this rain partnership that we have here. And we're talking about pure mountain spring water that comes in an aluminum can that is 100% recyclable, Tony. It is better for the planet. It is infinitely recyclable. It's natural material, and it tastes pretty damn good. I might say so myself, brother.
I got to shout out the whole Responsibly Rain people. You know, they did sponsor our bike yoga event by the time you hear this. This bike yoga event for the Climate Week kickoff, Kyle. Primary sponsor. This prime time hydration right here, right at the front. You've seen us pull up to Patagonia. Shout out to them as well. Shout out to Climate Word. Shout out to Clip, the e-bike alternative that you could turn any bike into an e-bike with the Clip. Everybody is focusing on keeping this city green, and we had to put the Off the Strength stamp on that. And as people who are custodians of all things movement culture, we move right in there. We move the right way. with everybody trying to focus on keeping this city cleaner, because we damn sure need it, right? And that's why Rain was there giving us some good water over there. We met some good friends over at Patagonia too. Hopefully they kind of tap into what we got going on.
Shout out to them P-folk.
Yeah, man, I could use a good cardigan. You know, I
need some P-funk in my life.
I saw some solid pants in there. They had all different. They have a cycling specific line.
Wetwear is what I'm in need of.
I was not aware that they had so much wetwear, Kyle. So I'm here for all of these new friends to hopefully get up with all of my old friends and we could all be friends at the same time, but we still can't talk about that other man.
And we let that go like that. You know what I'm saying? We just knocked that over. We're not going to speak on him. But if you want to get down with Off the Strength, you should hit us up because we are in the market for you.
Where could they find us, Kyle?
They could find us on Instagram at offthestrength_. Or if you're in the greatest city, sometimes that is New York City, you can come on down to Rockefeller Center where you can see us record live at Newsstand Studios in the block of the Rock, at the bottom of the Rock.
Yeah.
You can come in, you can see us on camera, you know what I'm saying, as we do our thug thizzle. But if you're scared money, you could also visit on Instagram at Rockefeller Center or X at Rock Center NYC.
That's right. And again, we are brought to you in part by the good folks at Newsstand Studios, and also added into our production portfolio, we got the good brother Bryant Perkins and the I Did That Productions. Kyle, do you need to leave people with any pertinent information before we get up out of here today?
Wash your hands.
Okay.
Wash your ass.
Yep, that's still in effect.
And effectively communicate. All you non-communicating folks out there, do better. This is not the time for you not to articulate what you need.
Once again, it's been another fantastic episode of Off the Strength. I'm a trainer called Tony.
KR Jones.
Peace and much love to y'all out there. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Peace.
What's good, everybody? I'm a trainer called Tony, and I am here from the infamous Off the Strength podcast, asking you today, listeners, viewers, wherever you may be, to please like, listen, and subscribe to our podcast. This is how we're going to continue to be able to deliver you the best goddamn wellness information out here. So if you want to keep hearing this and you want us to keep growing, you are a part of this show just as much as anything else. So please go to offthestrength.com. Make sure you check out our blogs. Make sure you check us out on IG. And if you're hearing this voice and you didn't hit that subscribe button, know that Kyle is going to come looking for you.
You got that right.